1. Central Bank of Iraq Heist, 2003. Date: March 18, 2003. One of the largest thefts in history occurred just before the U.S. invasion of Iraq in 2003. Nearly $1 billion was stolen from the Central Bank of Iraq, and it remains a highly debated incident. The heist was orchestrated by Qusay Hussein, the son of then Iraqi President Saddam Hussein, though some consider it more of a political move than a traditional heist. During the chaotic environment leading up to the U.S. invasion, Qusay ordered the withdrawal of vast sums of cash from the central bank, with the money being moved out under the guise of preparing for war. Qusay Hussein instructed the bank officials to withdraw and transfer the money from the central vault. It was said that the money was meant to fund the Iraqi government's operations during the war. The operation was so well coordinated that no one suspected anything unusual. Trucks were used to move the money, and it is believed that the move was carried out with Saddam Hussein's full knowledge and approval. The theft was done under the cover of impending war, and the stolen money disappeared. After the invasion, U.S. forces managed to recover about $650 million of the stolen money. However, the majority of the funds, more than $300 million, remains missing to this day. It's unclear whether this operation was truly a heist or simply a decision by Saddam's regime to prepare for an uncertain future. Nonetheless, it remains one of the most significant and controversial thefts in modern history. 2. Banco Central Heist, 2005. Date: August 6, 2005. The Banco Central Heist is one of the most creative and audacious heists ever carried out. Located in Fortaleza, Brazil, a group of criminals spent 3 months digging a 78-meter-long tunnel from a rented house to the vault of the Banco Central. The gang behind the heist had planned every detail meticulously, including disguising their activities as a landscaping project. They rented a house near the bank, and from there, they began digging the tunnel, which was equipped with lighting, air conditioning, and a pulley system to remove dirt. For 3 months, the robbers dug through the ground until they had an underground passage directly into the bank's vault. They worked unnoticed by the authorities, and on the weekend of the heist, the gang made their move. They stole around $70 million, carefully removing the money from the vault. To avoid detection, the criminals used the cover of a holiday weekend when the bank was less likely to be staffed or monitored closely. Despite arrests and attempts to recover the stolen money, a significant portion of it was never found. The robbers carried out the plan with precision, using well-thought-out tools and methods to avoid detection. The audacity and skill behind this heist made it one of the most famous robberies in Brazil's history. To this day, the Banco Central heist remains a case of criminal ingenuity that showcased the ability of criminals to plan and execute a robbery with military-like precision. 3. Dunbar Armored Robbery, 1997. Date: September 12, 1997. The Dunbar Armored Robbery is known as the largest cash robbery in U.S. history. The crime took place at the Dunbar Armored Facility in Los Angeles, California, where $18.9 million was stolen. What made this heist particularly unique was the fact that it was orchestrated by an insider, Alan Pace, who worked as a regional safety inspector for the company. Pace used his inside knowledge of the company's security systems and procedures to plan the heist with childhood friends. Over several months, Pace gathered a group of trusted individuals who would help him carry out the robbery. On the day of the heist, the robbers waited until the guards were on their lunch break. They then entered the facility, overpowered the remaining security staff, and gained access to the vault. The robbers made off with nearly $19 million in cash, escaping undetected at first. However, their plan eventually unraveled. The criminals were eventually caught, and while most of the money was recovered, some of it remains unaccounted for. The downfall of the robbers came when they attempted to launder the money, which drew the attention of law enforcement. The Dunbar Armored Robbery serves as a prime example of how an insider's knowledge can lead to a successful heist, but also ultimately be their downfall. 4. Securitas Depot Robbery, 2006. Date: February 22, 2006. The Securitas Depot robbery is one of the largest cash robberies in British history. This daring heist took place in Kent, England, where a group of armed robbers kidnapped the manager of the Securitas Depot, along with his family, to force him to help them access the vault. The robbers knew that the depot held a large amount of money, and they used extreme measures to ensure the manager would cooperate. The gang used violence and intimidation to get the depot manager to open the vault and lead them to the cash. The criminals stole £53 million, about $83 million, and fled the scene, marking the robbery as one of the most daring and violent in recent British history. Despite some arrests and partial recovery of the stolen money, a significant portion of the cash remains missing. The robbers' use of kidnapping and violent tactics ensured that the manager and his family complied, but it also showed the lengths to which criminals were willing to go for such large sums of money. The Securitas Depot robbery serves as a reminder of the vulnerabilities in even the most secure systems and the desperation of criminals willing to risk everything for a fortune. It remains one of the most talked about heists in British criminal history. 5. Lufthansa Heist, 1978. The Lufthansa Heist is one of the most famous robberies in U.S. history, partially due to its portrayal in the film Goodfellas. This heist involved the theft of $5 million in cash and $1 million in jewelry from John F. Kennedy International Airport's Lufthansa cargo building in New York. The heist was planned by Jimmy Burke, a member of the Lucchese crime family, along with his associates. The criminals had inside help, as they knew exactly when the money would be delivered to the airport. The robbery took place at a time when the airport was not heavily monitored, and the criminals were able to overpower the staff and take the money from the cargo facility. They quickly disappeared into the night, making it one of the largest heists of the time. For many years, the authorities were unable to track down the robbers, and the stolen money remained missing. Eventually, many of the criminals were caught, but they were undone by their attempts to launder the stolen money. The Lufthansa heist is notorious not only for the amount of money stolen, but also for its connection to organized crime. It remains a fascinating case of how insider knowledge and careful planning can lead to a successful heist, but also how it can eventually lead to capture. 6. Knightsbridge Security Deposit Robbery, 1987. In London, the Knightsbridge Security Deposit Robbery was one of the most audacious crimes ever carried out. On July 13, 1987, a thief posing as an Arab sheik managed to convince the staff at the Knightsbridge Safe Deposit Center to let him access the vault. The man was able to deceive the staff by pretending to be a wealthy individual and threaten them if they did not comply. The thief, using his charm and guile, gained access to the safe deposit boxes, where he made off with £70 million, around $97 million, in cash and valuables. The robber carefully planned the operation, making sure no one would suspect anything unusual. He used the cover of being a wealthy sheik to get into the center without raising suspicion. Once inside, he threatened the staff and stole the valuables. Despite efforts by law enforcement to track down the thief, he managed to evade capture. The Knightsbridge heist became one of the most high-profile robberies in London, and the robber remained at large for years. The heist was significant not only for the amount stolen, but also for the audacity of the criminal, who successfully manipulated his way into one of the most secure locations in the city. 7. Brinksmat Burglary, 1983. The Brinksmat burglary took place at Heathrow Airport, London, on November 26, 1983, and remains one of the most infamous robberies in British history. Robbers broke into the Brinksmat depot and stole £26 million, around $36 million, worth of gold bullion, diamonds, and cash. The crime was carried out by a group of criminals who had insider knowledge of the airport's security systems. Once inside the depot, the robbers were able to quickly access the vault and take the valuable items. The Brinksmat robbery had far-reaching consequences, as the stolen gold and diamonds were used to fund various criminal activities, including drug trafficking. The heist is often considered a turning point in Britain's criminal underworld, as it provided a large amount of money for organized crime groups. Despite efforts by law enforcement, much of the stolen gold was never recovered, and the criminals responsible for the heist became part of the country's most notorious crime syndicates. This robbery is often remembered for its sheer scale and the lasting impact it had on organized crime in Britain. It was a sophisticated operation that exploited the vulnerabilities in Heathrow Airport's security system and served as a reminder of how even the most well-guarded facilities can be targeted by determined criminals.